Battlin Boxer, an archetype that is over one full decade old, an archetype with 18 original cards. This archetype has been buried in the sands of time. However, recently, Konami, in their grace, has given the archetype 7 new cards to play around with, all with incredible quality. Will these be the cards in order to make this underdog story a reality? What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here, bringing another Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile. You all voted for it, and here I am responding. Here is Battlin Boxer. Now, this is a deck that we actually built on stream recently when we were celebrating 1,000 subscribers. And this deck is actually very interesting. It didn't really get to prove itself on stream, unfortunately. However, I do think the supporting cards that this archetype has received has kind of pushed it a little bit in the direction of at least being somewhat playable at the rogue level. This deck is very interesting. It's a rank 4 warrior strategy that revolves around fire monsters. Of course, fire monsters typically means Promethean Princess. However, this is an Xyz strategy, so we don't really have to endure that slogfest of a card. But this deck has gotten a bunch of new tools, like Promoter, Chief Second, and Uppercutter, being key monsters that the archetype has been missing in the main deck, as well as King Dempsey in the extra deck, just being an incredibly powerful turn 1 play that the archetype did not have before, because before the best it could realistically do was make 1 or 2 lead yokes. But now it can actually make some plays, which is very interesting. So that's enough yapping about the general overview of the cards. Let us get to the card by card and talk about what I think the deck can do. Starting off our list with new cards, we are on triple Battlin Boxer Promoter. If your opponent controls a monster, you can just special it straight out of your hand. You contribute it from your field to special 2 Battlin Boxer monsters with different names from each other from your deck, except for itself. And you can banish it from your graveyard to increase or decrease the levels of all Battlin Boxer monsters you can currently control by 1. You can only use each effect of Promoter once per turn. You can't special monsters the turn except for Battlin Boxers. So no Promethean Princess. You have your Boxer locked. So once you use this card, you have to do Boxer plays. So this card is still incredibly strong, though. It is functionally a rescue cat that special summons itself out of your hand if your opponent controls a monster. Otherwise, it's just a rescue cat, which doesn't negate the effects, which allows you to do the on-summon effects of some of your Boxers. So we are definitely going to be playing 3 of that. We are on triple Battlin Boxer Chief Second. During your main phase, you can normal summon 1 Battlin Boxer in addition to your normal summon or set. You can only get this effect once per turn. When your opponent's monster clears an attack, when you control a warrior or a fire monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do negate that attack, then banish 1 monster on the field till the end phase. Notice how it doesn't target the monster it banishes, and it does not notice how it doesn't target the monster it banishes, so it's just a really good way to remove lethal off the board. The additional normal summon is incredibly strong and something this deck has been waiting for a little bit, because this deck is very normal summon reliant. A lot of these cards, like Headgeared, need to be normal summoned. Like Switch Hitter, they both need to be normal summoned. So we need to be able to access that additional normal summon. So if we can go like Battlin Boxer Promoter to special summon Chief Second Uppercutter on normal or special gets to add a Battlin Boxer monster or a counter trap from deck to hand except for itself, or if it's sent to graveyard by a card effect, we can either special summon a Battlin Boxer from your graveyard or set a counter trap from your graveyard to your field. So if we special summon Uppercutter and Chief Second off a Promoter, we can then with Uppercutter search a Battlin Boxer we would then want to normal summon, which we would be able to because of the extra normal summon off of Chief Second. So really, really neat interaction, all made available with the new cards that were given to the archetype. And Uppercutter does add counter traps. It is very telegraphed when you add a card with Uppercutter being a counter trap, because your opponent gets to see you add it, which immediately lowers the power of the card that you add, because the best part about counter traps and traps in general is the surprise aspect. But when your opponent knows you either have Jolt counter or Battlin Boxer cross counter, they are more likely to play around it, since counter traps need your opponent to do something in order to actually activate them. But that's it for our new Battlin Boxer monsters. These are all the new main deck ones that were released so far. Now let's get on to the old ones. We're on triple copies of Battlin Boxer Spar. If we control a Battlin Boxer, we can just special it straight out of our hand, and we cannot conduct the battle phase for the rest of the turn. That isn't a once per turn, so we are playing a 3 Spar, because it also doesn't exclude itself. So if we open double Spar, we actually can still do stuff. We are on double Battlin Boxer Headgeared. When this card's normal summon, we can send a Battlin Boxer monster from our deck to the graveyard. The first time this attack position card would destroy a battle, each turn it is not. The destroy by battle effect isn't as relevant anymore as it was in the past. However, the Foolish Burial on summon is strong because, if remember Uppercutter, when it's sent to the graveyard with a card effect, we can immediately special summon a Battlin Boxer from graveyard or set a counter trap from our graveyard. However, we do have an additional target we would like to send, being Glass Draw. When we get to it, I will mention it. We're on double Switch Hitter. With its normal summon, we can target a Boxer in our graveyard to special summon it, and we can't special summon any monsters the turn we activate this effect except for Boxer monsters. That is completely fine. This is just a Foolish Burial on normal summon, and the reason we're playing 2 and 2 is because these are both very searchable, both off of King Dempsey as well as off of Uppercutter, so we can choose which one we need depending on the hand that we are given. If we need a card in graveyard in order to do anything, we can go Headgeared. If we already have the card in graveyard, for example, the Promoter that tributed itself, we can bring it back with Switch Hitter in order to get an extra extendy. And then our last Battlin Boxer is going to be one copy of Battlin Boxer Glassjaw. If it's targeted for an attack, we destroy it. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, we can target a Battlin Boxer in our graveyard except for Glassjaw and add it to hand. This is a great way that we are able to re-enable our combo for latter turns. If we go Promoter, like I mentioned, to get Chief Second, Uppercutter to grab our Headgeared, we go Headgeared, dump Glassjaw. We can go Glassjaw to add back the Promoter for our follow-up turn if we think that we are going to be living through our opponent's turn in order to do it all over again. That is it for our Battlin Boxer monsters. Not too many, it's just 17. They are fairly searchable, so not the worst thing in the world. Now let's get on to our Battlin Boxer spells and traps. We're on double Battlin Boxer Spirits. We can send the top card of our deck to the graveyard, then target a Battlin Boxer monster in our graveyard, special summon that target in face-up defense position, and we can only activate 1 Spirits once per turn. It's a monster reborn for Battlin Boxers. It does let you build the top card of your deck, very similar to Tuning. However, it does need you to have a Boxer in graveyard, so we are only playing 2 of it just because we can't always guarantee we have a Boxer in graveyard, and if we don't, this card is basically dead in hand. We are on double Ring Announcer. It's always treated as a Battlin Boxing card. We can special summon a Battler Boxer from our hand, then we can destroy spells and traps on the field up to the number of XCs monsters we control. We can only activate 1 Ring Announcer per turn. This is just a way to get an Boxer out of our hand as well as popping back row. I'm not sure how if this card is the most viable spot in this deck, and I would say that if you don't think you need the extra special summons, just putting more generic cards in here is probably going to be more optimal, to be honest. But I think it's a very funny card since it is non-targeting destruction of back row and can also allow this deck to remove cards such as Skill Drain, which it normally doesn't really have a very clean out to. And then for our counter traps, I already mentioned we're on 1 cross counter and 1 jolt counter. Cross counter reads, when your opponent activates a monster effect, destroy 1 Battlin Boxer or number XCs monster we control. And if we do, negate the activation. And if we do that, destroy that monster, then we can apply the following effect. Special summon 1 Battlin Boxer XCs from our extra deck with a different name than the first monster. And if we do, attach this card to it as material. We can activate 1 cross counter per turn. So essentially what this allows us to do, it allows us to pop a Boxer or a number XCs when your opponent activates a monster effect, negate and destroy the monster that activated that effect, and then if we do negate and destroy that monster, we then get to special summon a Battlin Boxer XCs other than the one that we popped, and then attach this card, cross counter being the card, as material to that card. So essentially what it allows us to access are hard to access CXCs as well as any of our other Battlin Boxer cards like Yugioh. It just allows us to pivot 1 Boxer into another depending on what we think is necessary in the battle phase, which is alright. It's not the best thing in the world, I'm not going to front, but it is not the worst thing, especially for this archetype that has a card like Yugioh. And then our last Battlin Boxer card is going to be 1 Jolt Counter. During the battle phase, when a spell, trap card, or monster effect is activated while you control a Boxer, negate the activation if you do destroy that card. Now if you read that card, this card is actually just a little bit of a straight upgrade from Cross Counter. Cross counter can negate a monster effect, and then we have to destroy our card, which requires us to have an XCs or a number XCs that we control. But cross counter, or rather jolt counter, just allows it to negate anything as long as we have a boxer. So jolt counter is actually just better than cross counter. Cross counter does let us get an XCs out, but we have to trade a card for the XCs, which isn't necessarily the best thing in the world. So that's just my personal preference, although I think, objectively speaking, jolt counter is better than cross counter. We are on a small rank up package. Chat and I were discussing, and the main thing is one of the new cards called Battlin Boxer General Kaiser is pretty much impossible for the archetype to actually natively achieve, other than putting 3 boxers on field and then raising all of their levels with promoter. And given this is a CXCs, that's most likely not the route we're supposed to be taking to summon it. So in order to play this, I am playing 3 7th Ascension as well as 2 Rank Up Magic Quick Chaos in order to be able to grab a Rank Up Magic from our deck in order to actually rank into this guy, because this card is actually pretty strong. And so the 7th Ascension reads, take 1 card from your deck, either a Bury, Spell Trap, or a Rank Up, and either add it to your hand or place it on top of your deck. And if your opponent controls a monster special summon from the extra deck, you can banish this card from your graveyard, send 1 Rank Up Magic spell from your hand to the graveyard, and this effect becomes that spell's effect. And when that card is activated, that spell's effect when it is activated, and you can use each effective 7th Ascension once per turn. So this card is actually very interesting. Of course, it is just a reinforcement of the army for any Rank Up Magic, so we're playing 3 of it just to resemble 5 Rank Up Magics in an archetype. We're searching for Quick Chaos, which is just a Rank Up Magic, but it's a quick play, which is nice. However, if we are going second and our opponent is going to be summoning from the extra deck, we do have the ability to play Rank Up Magic, the 7th one. To activate this card, you must draw it for your normal draw in your draw phase, reveal it, and keep it revealed until the start of your main phase. At the start of your main phase 1, that same turn, you can special summon from your extra deck or graveyard 1 number XCs monster, and then special summon from your extra deck 1 C. It has to be between 101 and 107, and then you have to special summon the C monster that corresponds with that. And then you can only use that effect once per duel. So the thing is, there's 2 really good CXCs monsters, being Masquerade, Umbral Horror Masquerade, and Silent Honor Dark. And so, essentially, if our opponent is going first and they set up an extra deck monster, we can go 7th Ascension to add the 7th one from deck to hand. Go 7th Ascension in graveyards. It's both effects are once per turn, but they're not both on the same once per turn. We can banish it from our graveyard, pitch the 7th one to basically copy its effect, and cheat out either Silent Honor Dark or Umbral Horror Masquerade with the appropriate monster used as material. Now, what does this actually accomplish? Umbral Horror Masquerade has the effect where once per turn during either player's turn, when the monster effect is activated on your opponent's side of the field, you can attach a material from this card, negate the activation, and then send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, and if you do, half your opponent's life points. So that's a little bit of a far cry from just an Appaloosa, if you know what I'm talking about. This card is incredible. Like, it's absolutely insane. And even if we're doing it on our own turn when we are going second, we are instantly putting up a piece of negation that will half our opponent's life points, basically immediately putting them under threat of death, as well as ripping a card out of their hand, potentially a hand trap. Or if we go with Silent Honor Dark, this card reads, once per turn, you can target 1 special summon monster your opponent controls, attach it to this card as material. When it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard while it has material, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, then gain life points from the original attack. Main thing is, this card absorbs a card, and then when it goes to the graveyard and comes back, you can eat another one, because it does bring itself back from the graveyard. So it's basically 2 removals in 1 if we do find a way to put it in graveyard. However, this is a little suspect. It is a little silly, a little goofy, a little quirked up with the sauce. So if you were looking to just play the rank ups, I would recommend playing the rank ups in main, and only when you know you're going to be going second to put in the 7th one, because it does not work unless your opponent has a monster special from the extra deck. But that was a brief little side tangent. Now let's get on to the rest of the cards. Run 1 Reinforcement of the Army, double triple tactics talents, and 1 Call by the Grave as our hand trap mitigation tools. Double Forbidden Droplet in order to non-target negate cards on field, as well as a great way to send our normal spells to the graveyard as we activate them. Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring and Infinite Impermanence as our hand traps of choice. Yeah, I like the main deck a lot, but let's move on to the extra. New card, Polychant new card. We're on double Battlin Boxer King Dempsey. These 2/4s. When it's special summoned, we can take a level 4 lower Fire Warrior or 1 Battlin Boxer spell trap from our deck and either add it to hand or foolish it. Really crazy effect, especially in this archetype. Quick effect, you can attach 1 material from a monster you control, and if you do, apply the following effect. For the rest of the turn, your opponent cannot target Battlin Boxer monsters you control with card effects for the rest of the turn. So it is just a really good blanket protection effect. I'm not making all your boxers untargetable, but the main thing is that on summon effect to just immediately add or foolish either a Battlin Boxer spell trap or a Fire Warrior monster being basically any of your Battlin Boxers, which is really great. This card is something the archetype has been missing, and I think it really does put a boost in the archetype. I did mention Lead Yoke. I am now going to talk about it. We're on Battlin Boxer Lead Yoke, and he's 2/4 Battlin Boxers. If a Battlin Boxer you control be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can attach a material from this card instead of destroying one of those monsters. If a material is detached from this card gains 800 attack. That is a permanent gain. It is just a replacement effect. This is one of the first replacement effects that were actually played in the meta, to my knowledge. This card is actually pretty good, and it does kind of hold up even a little bit today. It does protect against field wipes like Dark Hole Raigeki-ish, because it says if a Battlin Boxer monster you control would be destroyed in monsters, so it'll even just protect your whole field, which is really nice. And we are playing 2 of it just because we are able to go into it again with our cross counter during the battle phase. We're on 1 Battlin Boxer Star Cestus. It needs 3/4s. Once per turn, you can battle step. If your Battlin Boxer battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can attach a material from this card. Negate the effects of the opponent's monster while face up until the end of the turn. That monster you control cannot be destroyed by that battle, and your opponent takes any battle damage you would have taken from that battle. Not the best card. I'm going to be honest. It isn't the best card. However, it is a Battlin Boxer card, and we do get Battlin Boxer locked, so this does have the potential to pop up in the actual duel. We are on 1 Battlin Boxer Nova Kaiser, number 79. It needs 2/4s, gains 100 attack for each material attached to it. Once returned in the main phase, you can attach a Boxer from your hand or graveyard to this card as material. When this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard while it has material, you can target 1 level 4 or lower Battlin Boxer monster in your graveyard up to the number of materials this card out on the field and special summon them. So when this card dies, it's like Soul Charge, which is neat. That's actually a really cool effect, and it does also let you trigger all their unsummon effects as well. It does also require your opponent to not have eyes. They have to not read your card. They have to be like, oh, you just made that guy that has no effect. Let me just pop it real quick. So yeah, it does also have to be sent to the graveyard specifically. So SP Little Knight Banish it just does ruin your whole game plan. So not especially the best card, but it is a Boxer card, so I did just want to include it in the list just because the extra deck actually isn't as packed as you might think for it being an Xyz deck, because we do get locked a little bit easy. And namely with Switch Hitter and with Promoter, we do get locked. So it isn't necessarily the easiest to play out of archetype stuff. However, sometimes it is an availability if we don't open those cards specifically. But because we do get locked, I'm personally opting to play more of the bad Battlin Boxers just as an optional flex slot. We're on 1 Battlin Boxer Comet Cestus. It needs 4/5s. This card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sent it to the graveyard and inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the destroyed monster's original attack. If this card is number 105 Star Cestus' material, it gains its effect. Once per turn, you can attach material from this card, target 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy it. And if you destroyed a face of monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack that monster had on field. This is just an option in time. We can again rank up Magic Star Cestus into this. Or if we wanted to, in the battle phase, we could cross counter into this to destroy something by battle to do burn damage that way. But this is just mostly a time option, so that's why it's included. Although another very funny time option, like I mentioned, is the Masquerade, having your opponent's life points. I did mention Battlin Boxer General Kaiser. I'm going to go over it now. It's 3 level 5s and gains 200 for each material attached to it. Once per turn, when your opponent would special summon a monster, quick effect attached to materials from this card, and if you do, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. If this card has number 79 Battlin Boxer Nova Kaiser's material, it gains this effect. When an attack is declared involving your Battlin Boxer monster and opponent's monster, you can send one Battlin Boxer monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. If you do, attach an opponent's monster to this card's material. And this is the other reason why we are playing Nova Kaiser, because it allows us to go any 2/4s, rank up into this to then get that additional beneficial effect. So we're playing one Nova Kaiser and one of this because that is pretty much the only way we are physically going to be summoning the General Kaiser. But I did mention Masquerade, Horror Masquerade, Silent Honor Arc, which is also just a good level 4 if we can make it, which just steals an opponent's monster, and Silent Honor Dark. These are 4 cards all relegated to one silly card in the side deck, so again, these are completely cuttable, and if you were to cut them, I would recommend just running like maybe another Nova Kaiser and another General Kaiser. And then, of course, we are playing the super staples of the Xyz archetype, AA Zeus Sky Thunder, Typhon Sky Crisis, and SP Little Knight. Now, I actually did receive a comment that was actually kind of interesting in one of my last videos, talking about how at the end of these videos I could go over budget changes to these archetypes if you were looking to find budget changes, and I am more than happy to oblige. I actually do enjoy budget deck building a lot. So we are going to be removing Zeus Sky Thunder, Sky Crisis, and SP Little Knight, and we can replace them with, oh, that's just gone forever. Oh, well. We can replace them with Nightmare Unicorn, Evil Storm Exciton Knight, and Bagoosker the terribly tired Tapir. Again, we do get Boxer locked, so these are cards that will probably not come up more frequently than they will. However, if they do come up, Exciton is basically a Zeus at home. Nightmare Unicorn is SP Little Knight at home, and Bagoosker is just a Floodgate, which I guess technically Typhon is, so I guess it could be Typhon at home, but not necessarily. But yeah, that's about it for the deck profile. I think this is a very interesting deck. I don't think this is necessarily going to be meta competitive or meta viable in any sense of the word, just because it does lock us into Battlin Boxers, and that means we are locked into an archetype that is primarily cards from over a decade ago, which isn't the best look. I mean, to be honest, it isn't the best look being locked into kind of old cards. However, some of these old cards actually have aged nicely. Switch Hitter, Headgear, Spar, and Glassjaw, as well as Spirits. These are all like not awful cards. Like, we are finally getting to the point where all this legacy support for these older archetypes are starting to support archetypes that could kind of stand on their own 2 feet to a degree, even back in the day, and have competent effects. But that's going to be about it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching, if you still are, and I'll be seeing you all later. Bye-bye! And before we end the video, I just want to give a big thank you to our first YouTube channel member. Thank you, Ari. Thank you for your membership. That really means a lot to me. And if you want to find out more details on how you can become a member, stay tuned. I do have more details at the end of every video. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh and the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or 2 before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye bye.